Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. The purpose of today is to hopefully give you some helpful and valuable insight into what's happening at Corporate Traveller, as well as our very fluid industry. We'll be starting off with a business and industry update from our president, Chris Lynes, 5 minutes on Melon, our technology platform, with our global product manager, Trevor Brink. An amazing panel discussion led by our SVP of Customer Success, Ben Hobbs, and an update from our friends and partners at United Airlines. We will be hosting a prize draw for a pair of economy return flights with United Airlines at the end of the webinar as well. A large number of people submitted questions for our speakers when they registered. We tried really hard to ensure all these questions were addressed throughout our content. But if you have any further questions after the event or want some more information or further detail on a particular topic, please do not hesitate to reach out to our team. We do have some of our customer success team on hand to try and answer questions that come up in the chat. But again, if your specific question is not answered, then just reach out to us after the webinar. Thanks so much again for joining. And I'm now going to pass the virtual microphone over to our president, Chris Lynes.
Thank you very much, Jade. I'm very excited to be here with all of you virtually. Unfortunately, we're not in person, which would be much better than staring at a blank screen. But we are very excited to present to you where we see the vision of travel in the 2023. But looking back, it's been one eventful year of 2022. We've gone through quite a bit of challenges in the industry, but we are feeling like we are through these or getting through them and excited for the future. Today, I'm going to work through some of the questions that came to us that were gathered before this seminar, which is, what are we doing with staffing levels? Where do we see industry trends moving? And then I'm going to pass it over to Trevor Brink, our Global Head of Product, who's going to speak about Melon, which is our proprietary tool and digital platform. So we are not alone in our staffing challenges. These seem to be across the Americas with a historic unemployment rate of 3.7%. There's been a lot of movement of staff in all industries, and we continue to see that today. What we're trying to do is really become an attractive employer for luring new talent into our business. And some of the challenges that we're seeing is that the expectation of employers has changed. And we have to then address that internally as a business here. And I'm sure you're feeling the same way in your businesses or have some similar challenges. So what we're focused on is our DEI initiatives, ensuring that our technology and our automation is really top notch, because our new entrants into our business are expecting these to be perfect, and today they're not. But we're working on that right now. Continued development and career opportunities is sought after by all of us. Everyone wants to progress. Everyone wants to continue to develop. So we're making changes in what we offer here. Pay equity and transparency has never been more important. We do believe that everyone is equal here, and we are working towards, just really publicizing that and really having that be really transparent. Then work-life balance. We offer a hybrid work experience with 3 days in the office and 2 days out, as well as fully remote staffing, which is now, the genie's out of the bottle and there's no way of putting it back in, which is completely fine. It's the new way forward, but it comes with challenges, and we're working through those challenges now. And we have to give purpose for our people. Sustainability is really important, as well as equity and ensuring that everyone has an equal right to move forward in that business. So we're really working on that as a business here. Our plan, like I said, to address that is really our employee value proposition. We've introduced tuition reimbursement for our staff who are looking to continue their education. Our leave and our benefits have been increased. We're looking at addressing the parental leave and adding several months to that for our new parents, so that they can have a better work-life balance and introduction and protection of their positions in our business. Kids and Company, which is a guaranteed daycare placement for anyone who needs care for their children that have to be at work. And again, flexible working options in our employee share program. It's very important to us and something we've introduced there. Because of some of those introductions, we've seen our staff retention grow to 85%. It was difficult during the pandemic to retain staff, as we were going through such a challenging time here in the travel industry. So we're very happy to see that our retention rate is back up into that mid 80s, and we're looking to get that into the 90% range. To do that, like I said earlier, we have to have continual learning, continual opportunities for our people to upskill themselves, to better understand where they can deliver benefits to our customers by improving who they are. So we've introduced NorthPass, which is a fantastic tool for that reason. Our wage benchmarking and our wage equity is really really important to us, and we've gone through the entire organization to ensure that there are no outliers and have really focused on our compensation models for all of our staff. And DEI is so important. It's not a buzzword. This is where we need to be. We need to ensure that we are in sustainable, working on our environmental justices, as well as complete equity across the entire business. And we're very, very proud of the work that we're doing here. Industry stats, this is what everyone wants to talk about. So what is going on in the industry? There's some good and bad news. Good news is airline capacity is back to 2019 level for both domestic and for international. Where we're seeing some challenges is obviously some regional areas that had to be reduced so that the major capital cities had the capacity and the pilots and everyone there. That's still suffering a little bit in certain areas, but the capacity is back to 2019 level, which is great because we all struggled to find seats for a while. Domestic loads, it peaked in the 90% in June and July. So that, if there was any kind of a delay, that is a multi-day knock-on effect. And we heard that from all of our industry partners that as soon as they had one weather experience during June and July, that was a cascading effect. And it affected our travelers and it affected us because we had to then scramble to try and find seats to reaccommodate our shared customers. So happy to say it has gone back down 90%, and Mary could probably speak to this better. 90% is a scary number. I don't know if it sounds great, but if there's ever an issue, I think it's quite dicey for our partners. So Mary would be the expert on that, but that's what we saw throughout the summer, and we're looking to be in a better spot, which is great. Our average fares continue to be up versus 2019. I don't think this is any surprise. We see inflation in the marketplace, the issue that's going on in Ukraine and the increase in fuel costs. It's no real surprise to us that this is up versus 2019. And it looks like it probably will continue to be in that direction for the next little bit. The average fares have peaked, which is great. So they're not increasing too much, but like I said, they're not going down too much, but their average fare is in that $600 range right now across the USA. So some key takeaways for the buyers that are here is budget for higher fares. I don't see a drastic decrease in what's going on there. And also that the staffing issues that are still in the industry are not necessarily due to COVID. This is just an extremely tight labor market right now, and everyone's fighting to try and right size their employees. For the year ahead, capacity has recovered. The Asian and the Asia Pac market is still struggling with the restrictions that are in China. It does sound like there's some positive information coming out where this may change in the next little bit, where COVID zero may be changed. Of course, none of us can actually comment or know if that's truly going to happen, but I know that we are quite hopeful for our customers to reopen that market. And NDC continues to make progress. So NDC is the new distribution channels that the airlines are really interested in exploring, which is bundled services and fares that can be customized per customer. Should you be at the size in the program that needs that. So that continues to make progress in the background. We'll hear more about that as we move through 2023. In terms of hotel, occupancy rates are back at industry high performing levels in most of the key markets. So you're seeing a lot of high occupancy rates across all the key markets, which shows that travel is back and people are on the road again. If you look at Chicago at 87%, New York 85%, Washington 86%, and Miami 95%. Those are really high occupancy levels, which will drive industry rates, of course. Which is a good and bad sort of tale right now. So there's some cities that have seen some increases, and some cities that have seen some decreases from the highs. We are expecting an increase across board of about 7% in hotel rates for next calendar year. So again, this goes to what our buyers are budgeting for and our customers are budgeting for, to really look through your programs and try and identify areas that you can have savings as well as cost controls. Like I said, with strong occupancy rates, BTN is definitely forecasting more rate increases in the future. So we'll see where it all ends up. I think it's going to be city by city and country by country where those rates go. But I don't expect that you'll see your hotel program have much savings this year. But there was always opportunities, and our customer success team is fantastic, and our contracting team with Jan and the team are great. So we do have something to offer in the future with our CT exclusive rates, which have inclusions such as breakfast, Wi-Fi's, etc. But some key takeaways across the board is travel is definitely back. Meetings and events. Our team who set this meeting up, these guys are so busy. They're struggling to even do a conference for us in Chicago, which Mary and the United team are key sponsors for. We were very excited for. So we've just put out our registration for about 150 people to head to Chicago to have our first big conference. Well, I guess it's our second big conference since COVID hit. So we're very excited about that. But what's driving that is really the fatigue from being on these meetings. So thank you for joining us. But we know we're all tired of being on Teams calls and Zoom calls. Being back in person, there's really nothing that can replace that. And we're seeing that with our M&A teams really busy. The year ahead, again, 7% increase in our hotel rates. That's what we're expecting. It's going to be city by city and country by country, but we are expecting increases. RCT exclusive rates and the discount rates that are available that have inclusions are definitely something we should key in on with our customers to ensure that we do provide as much value as possible for the right price. And one of the biggest trends that we're watching out for is really large and really important in the European region, and it's coming to North America, which is sustainability and ensuring that we're making the right choices. And whether or not that means, no connections, you just take one plane, whether or not you extend your trip instead of doing multiple flights in and out of cities. There's ways and there's strategies that are being implemented. And one that to call out is in France. If you're a domestic traveler in France and you can take a train for the same time as a flight, it's banned now. So they do have a connection throughout France where if you're flying in and you're going to, say, Bordeaux or Nice or anywhere else and you're going through Charles de Gaulle, you can obviously take that connector. But if you're living in France, that's off the table now. So that's a very interesting new take on sustainable travel. So we're definitely watching that, and we've made some gains with what we can offer in terms of sustainability reporting. And Trevor can speak more to that because he's been really instrumental in that. And with that, I'm going to pass you to our head of global product for Melon, Trevor Brink, who's going to give us a run through of where we are with our Melon program and what's going on there. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. As Chris had mentioned, I'm going to go through just kind of a quick overview from a product perspective, what's happening in the technology space. And before we start looking into kind of a future facing or where we're going, I think it's important just to kind of level set, since I know we've got a wide variety of attendees today in our customer base. So to give you guys some perspective, Melon is the proprietary platform we built during COVID that is meant to be kind of a one-stop shop for our customers to search, book, and manage their business travel all in one place. It really came out of customer feedback where we were hearing quite often that our customers loved the support that they were getting from their customer success or their dedicated travel consultant, but they had a little room for improvement with our third-party technology and kind of the disjointed experience that came as a result of using multiple tools and not really having creative control of that roadmap and that user experience. So we went and made an acquisition during COVID to create kind of our own platform, which we launched in the fall of 2021. So over the last year or so, we've been constantly iterating the experience and trying to improve it for our customers. And the top three things I would say that's come from that customer feedback relative to the product is the powerful search engine that we've built into the OBT functionality. We've actually connected to a number of multiple content sources that Chris had mentioned, kind of the prevalence of NDC, for example, or low-cost carriers In the hotel space, you can see in the screenshot, we are pulling in Booking.com and Expedia rates to make sure that our travelers know everything is available in their corporate ecosystem and kind of help drive compliance for our customers. And then badging things like our corporate traveler exclusive deals, things that we actually bring to the table outside of what you've negotiated as a customer as well. So all those things in a really nice look and feel of a modern consumer site, which has been received really, really well. On top of that, because of some of the volatility in pricing in the industry, we did go through and create a smart travel policy or a dynamic travel policy capability within the product. What that means is we're actually able to capture the market at the time of the search and actually produce a recommended spend or a budget within the current market conditions and say this is a good or a bad spend for that. So instead of our admins needing to try and keep up with the delta or the change in the average hotel cost in Paris, for example, Melon can do that hard work and actually make it based off of what is important to you as a company. It's not a one size fits all. You can kind of play up and down the different factors in these algorithms to say, if our company cares a lot about the best price or we care a lot about the customer experience, they can kind of adjust those to make it happen. So definitely encourage you guys to speak with your customer success managers or dedicated travel consultants on that. It has helped save a lot of our customers a lot of pain with managing their travel policy throughout COVID with the ebbs and flows there. And then lastly, outside of the search and book function, I did want to touch on reporting really quickly, specifically with our admins on the call. So we've also developed interactive reporting powered by Power BI. So it's a very powerful visualization layer on top that gives you top line insights into your financial, your reservation data, in addition to like health and safety alerts. And then you can actually drill into the graphics to get additional detail and pull to do your own analysis if you feel so inclined. So a lot of good feedback there. In terms of development underway, looking forward, I just want to highlight a few things that are currently in the works. First and foremost, our mix and match carriers in the airspace. This will allow us to basically mix and match carriers in the outbound and return or on multi-city trips that is in line with a lot of the aggregator sites that you see out there. So those hacker fares on a kayak, that allows you to book it in one shopping experience in Melon and associate it to the trip. So a little bit more flexibility in the shopping flow and then more targeted results on both the outbound and the return, which is really exciting and a unique differentiator for us that a lot of other OBTs haven't tackled. We're also working to improve the hotel experience, specifically with map navigation, some filter interactions, and then just improved badging to help our travelers get you the rate or the hotel that they're specifically looking for, all within your policy, while we're also working through some approval enhancements. So things like trip level reporting fields and just the navigation that our approvers are dealing when they're actioning things via email or in the platform. We're working to make that as seamless as possible. And then some content and sustainability. So additional low-cost carriers in EasyJet and Ryanair pulled into the US and Canadian point of sale, in addition to NDC direct connections with suppliers that are kind of preferring that that we distribute their content that way. So it's an exclusive access for customers of Corporate Traveler. And sustainability, since we know that is really important for a lot of our customers, getting to either net neutral or kind of meeting their own goals. We're going to basically improve the experience. We started with kind of an awareness level. We're just showing what is the carbon emissions. We'll now kind of level that up and show which flights are actually driving are the lowest emissions in a set of results, or which hotels are a little bit more eco-friendly to try and help you guys drive the right behavior within your companies, if that's something that is on your top line objectives for 2023. In addition to the feature and functionality we just mentioned, we are also launching a new mobile experience. We spent the last year or so actually changing, completely rewriting the code base on the back end in order to improve the performance of the product. So we're talking faster searches, a better quality experience front to back, and then we've got a new look and feel that will be coming out with that, and a couple other features. So specifically for our Rangers, we'll get a view has all of the managed travelers under their umbrella in one place. And then also give them access to manage profiles on the go. So when they're getting calls, emails after hours, they can just pop on their phone really quickly and make those changes without having to fire up their computer. And then lastly, wanted just to show you guys kind of where we're going in 2023. A lot on this page, so I don't expect you to read it all, but I did want you to kind of see, based on some of those industry trends, some of the features that we're going to be developing to help you manage your program, starting with recommended spend enhancements, that dynamic policy. We'll be baking in some additional data points for additional context. So think of policy triggers, like over this amount is going to trigger approval. We'll put that in kind of a dynamic slider so you can see what is a good or a relevant price point based off of your company policy, and then where approvals will be triggered in the min and max of that search. We're also going to be building in some self-service capabilities to do modifications and cancellations across air and hotel. The ability to hold flights, specifically arrangers using this quite often as they're working with managed travelers. Some policy and savings analysis reporting to help you understand the impact of some of these things on the bottom line on your company goals, and then one-time guest links to try and help with kind of the resurgence of the meeting and event travel, that you can actually fire those things off. So a non-profiled employee or somebody traveling in for an event could actually book themselves with one-time access without getting free reign within the product to use your credit card and book as needed. So lots coming down the pike. Please feel free to reach out to your dedicated travel consultants or your customer success manager if you have questions, and please keep the feedback coming. We really appreciate your support as we improve the process for all of our customers at CT. So from here, I'll kick it over to Jade to start the panel.
Thank you, Trevor. It's always really exciting for us internally to see how Melon is evolving and enhancing to keep up with the industry. And I hope it's the same for all our buyers. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to our panel. As I mentioned earlier, Ben Hobbs, our SVP of Customer Success, will be leading this discussion with a couple of our clients and buyers who have agreed to take part. And we also have some of our internal team as well. So over to you, Ben, to introduce everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jade, and a pleasure to meet you all. As Jade said, I'm very fortunate to have some panelists here. We have Laura Hodgkinson, who is the Senior Manager of Global Travel Program at 10x Genomics. And we have Annika Klutch, who is the Senior Executive Coordinator and Corporate Events Manager at Stork USA. And then from the corporate traveler side of things, we have Tim Goddard, who is our Director of Customer Savings and Value, and Jon Abad, who is our VP of Corporate Supplies and Distribution. So thank you all so much for joining me on this panel today. So following up from Trevor's session there on Melon, my first question is for Laura here. Laura, what methods have you used to increase online adoption at 10x Genomics?
Thanks, Ben, for that question. I have to say I started at 10x about a year ago, and the lowest adoption rate was at that time with our Concur tool because of the fact we did not have very good settings. Our setup was back in 2017, and we've evolved, we've doubled in regards to our staffing. So we reviewed our settings, which we had 19 different policy rules, and adjusted them to 3. We reviewed our profiles feed, and that was every 8 weeks, it's down to 24. So it's current key information, and it's much more user-friendly. So going from there to updating our educational tools and promoting those tools made a huge difference. And then the icing on the cake was our client success manager and our travel manager came out, and we had a travel fair, and we really had that personal contact with our travelers to get a little more insight of why it's important and what the value is, I think was the icing on the cake.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you for repping customer success there. Always glad to hear that. So changing avenues a little bit now, we're going to talk about air. So Tim, can you just tell us a little bit about flight schedules? Do you see them returning to pre-pandemic scheduling? And do you think we'll see more direct flights in the coming year?
Thanks, Ben. It's an interesting question because I don't think we'll ever get back to pre-pandemic scheduling because things have really evolved since then. As for whether we're going to see more direct flights, it kind of depends on where you're flying from and where you're flying to. Especially with the big 3 domestic US carriers, we've seen a lot of pulling out of the really small cities in the US. But we've also seen a lot of expansion to certain international destinations, especially transatlantic. United has really expanded their network out of Newark to go to a lot of new cities they weren't at before. On the other side, there have also been a lot of new low-cost carriers that have started serving smaller markets. So there's just been a lot of change and shift in what direct flights there are and where you can fly more easily to and from. And one other change we're starting to see a little bit is some of the international carriers are starting to go kind of the more low-cost carrier route, where they're offering some new flight routes that are not their normal kind of hub system. I think a small one that just announced something this week was Avianca in South America. Now it's okay, we're going to start to be kind of more like a low-cost carrier and have more point-to-point routes that aren't to or from our hub. So it'll be interesting to see going forward if we're going to see more of that, kind of like the low-cost carrier model in the US.
Fantastic. And so touching there on cost, what's your expected direction of airfare pricing in 2023? I know Chris touched on it a little bit, but I'd love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll all go down. So it's going to drop. No, just kidding. It's not. We expect to see, kind of rising prices along with inflation in general, but there are certain destinations where I do expect to see prices go down. When countries kind of close themselves off during COVID and then they open back up, it's interesting how you can kind of see a huge spike in the price. We're still seeing in some destinations, especially Trans-Pacific. Australia, I know we mentioned that they're open back up, but as you could see from like hotel occupancy rates, they're not getting the same traffic they were before. And if anybody here has booked business class flights to Australia in the last year, it's kind of shocking. People are paying like $15,000-$20,000 for flights that before COVID were like $5,000. So I do expect that there are some of those destinations where travel confidence is going to come back, and thus prices are going to go back towards normal. I can't say they're going to go back down to pre-COVID levels, especially because certain airlines like Virgin Australia, for example, doesn't fly from the US anymore. So until we can get as much competition as there was before, prices are still going to remain elevated, but there are some destinations where prices will go down.
Thank you so much. So keeping on the topic of pricing, Jon, and I know that Chris touched on this earlier as well, but what are your thoughts around hotel pricing? Do we expect them to go down at any point? Because I think we're all aware that they have increased significantly over the past few months.
Yeah. As Chris showed a little bit, we've really been in full recovery mode for the last 12 to 18 months, and in most of the cities, as Chris was showing, in the US and Canada particularly, the hotels are at more than 80% of occupancy in average, which means the hotels are basically full. And generally, like the hotels, they start increasing their rates when they are at 60-65% of occupancy. So you see all these crazy rates, particularly in big hubs, like New York, the Bay Area, Chicago. You see, averages of $350-400 a night. And just anecdotally, because you were mentioning New York before, Chris, I challenge everybody to look at rates availability for next week, and it's pretty crazy. I challenge anyone to find anything below $1,000. And the week just after, it's dropping, and it's just going fine. So it's all about supply and demand. There's a lot of pressure still on supply. Many hotels, just like airlines, they have issues with staff, and it impacts their operations. Many hotels, they cannot open all their rooms, for example, and obviously also the operations costs are increasing. The cost of labor, the cost of goods, all the general inflation, this is impacting the rates. And finally, another thing also is that the supply is not growing as fast as we were hoping a few months ago. It's just getting very, very hard to finish new buildings right now. If you know anyone in construction, it's just very hard to finance, high interest rates, shortage of staff, etc. So we don't have this new inventory coming on the market. On the demand side, we have had, very sustained growth in demand, particularly from corporates and groups, and it's starting to soften a little bit, because of the slowing economy, some policies with all the airfares so high, etc., budget restrictions, working from home, etc. So we're starting to see in secondary tier cities like Minneapolis, Houston, St. Louis, occupancy are lower and the rates are much more reasonable. But so bottom line, in terms of forecast, as Chris presented, we're expecting for next year, it still increases of 5 to 7%. But this is compared to 15 to 20% that we are seeing this year. So we will still see increases, but I think the worst is a bit behind us. We will still see increases, but just at a slower pace than what we've seen in the last year.
Perfect. Thank you for a very thorough answer there. So still on the topic of cost and cost avoidance, this question is going to Annika. So in terms of reasonable allowances for food, hotel in the US and beyond, how do you decide on this and what resources do you use from a policy perspective?
Yeah, short of throwing dollars at you, there are definitely some resources that we're tapping into. One actually that I love using is the government's use. That's the General Services Administration link that you can find online. I know you will share it out later for everybody. But that calculator just gives you an idea, depending on states, if you're staying domestically. If you are going outside of the US, Laura is actually also using the BTN calculator, Business Travel News Corporate Travel Index calculator. Hope I got this right. And I looked at it, it's actually beautiful. So I don't know why I haven't used it sooner. So thank you, Laura. But it's a very nice tool as well. And then for those that are traveling by car, right? How do you determine mileage? So I'm looking at the standard mileage rates through the IRS. We really adapt them every year. We adjust to that. With the government rates, truth be told, we up them. Poor government workers don't really get what the corporate world can offer. So we're doing that. But I think it's also important to really look at your own company's history and the behavior and where you want the behavior to be. You can direct that. One really nice tool, Trevor mentioned it earlier, is the reporting that you get with Melon. You can also see when you're searching on Melon for hotels, etc., that it's a dynamic tool. It considers your general policy, local and current rates, to really give your travelers a real-time direction for reasonable spend. So, again, many different tools, many different options, but I think all of our companies that we work for are different. And try out a few and see what really works for you.
Beautiful.
And then actually, if I can add one last one, that would be the shout out for Jennifer Dower, because I talk to her as my customer success manager a lot to just see like, hey, what is the industry doing? What do you recommend? What do comparable companies to ours do, right? Like that's a little bit harder to gauge. Like a company like ours with our kind of behavior, you can't really Google that. So tap into the resources that you have at hand with you guys.
Thank you. And thank you to Jennifer as well. I appreciate that. And then still on the topic of policy, have you incorporated leisure travel into your policy at all? And if so, could you just tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I love leisure. Yes, so I think there are so many great things that you can do that make travelers happier, and happy travelers are good travelers and also good, employees in the end. We have written it into our policy, actually. So we do encourage that, especially if, a meeting that they travel for starts on a Monday or Friday or ends on a Friday, that people consider taking the weekend for their trip and come back a bit more relaxed, a little happier, get to see where they actually were. We actually expense their gym time, if especially overseas. It's not always included in hotel rates. So if there's a fee for using the gym at the hotel or nearby gym, we let them expense that. We have, if they want to take vacation time after traveling, especially again, if it's a location where they may have family or friends or going overseas and want to explore, We just ask them to, when they book their trip on Melon, to make sure they have a comparison to what their trip would have cost if it was for business reasons only. And if there is a fair difference, they will make up for it. And if there isn't, they're good to go. They won't get a payout if it's cheaper. But it always comes with a warning that, hey, if anything changes, and we all know business travel tends to change all the time, then you need to adjust your personal trip as well, and we will not reimburse for whatever damage there has been. So it's a fine balance, but I do believe that more relaxed travel makes for happier travelers and makes them a lot more productive.
Thank you so much. While we're talking about traveler experience, and this is a question for Jon, there's been some changes to the benefit programs that are being offered by our hotel and car partners. Do you feel that these are still desirable and useful for the travelers?
Yeah, the loyalty programs, I think they are still very, very desired, as long as they are free. Because I know we're starting to see, like recently, particularly some airlines increasing their fees. I mean, I've just seen a lot of that in the last days. But hotel programs and car rental programs, are still a little bit behind that. I think these programs still, provide a lot of benefits. Just like Annika was saying, particularly for the travelers. Things like, that just improve the experience of being on the road. So of course you have your rewards. Who doesn't like to have their free nights at the end of the year and take the family, etc. But just in terms of on the road experience, they really reduce the friction, some of the friction of travel, like, skipping the lines with car rental companies, or even with hotels, having a faster check-in, getting the upgrades, or even like guaranteed availability, for car rental is getting a bit better. But until a few months ago, you were showing up even with a reservation at the car rental counter and you were not sure to have the car. So there's just like great benefits. There's like a hotel partner we work a lot with, like IAG. They just relaunched their hotel program, and it's just full of great perks, like having breakfast included, late checkout, etc. There's also like access to very good rates. I think Trevor mentioned that in Melon, but for us it's been very important to work on making sure we gave these loyalty member rates, that are discounted rates, making them available into Melon and through the agents. So they offer discounts. As we said, rates are not decreasing, so it's a good perk. And yeah, I think they are very, very important. What we see from hotels and car rental companies is that they keep on investing on this a lot. They want to increase their base of loyal customers and the benefits they offer. One of the big trends also I think we will see is that there will be probably more and more flexibility in how you earn the points and how you spend the points. There's a lot of partnerships outside of, where you can spend the points or earn points outside of the hotels or outside of the planes, with a variety of partnership. Also a lot of personalization, the ability to choose your own benefits. Which is great, and I think with the new generations, the Gen Z, etc., like immediate, rewards, instant rewards are going to be like really, really important. So definitely not a trend. I think we'll see just more and more focus and improvements in these programs.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Laura, Annika mentioned earlier about reporting, and we're very proud of our customer-facing reporting that we have at Corporate Traveller. I want to see if you had any tips for our guests here on how you use reporting effectively.
I have to say, reporting is an opportunity where you can have the light shine on your program, and you can use the reporting in a way that it can hit many levels at your company. When I started at 10X, there was no reports at all going to the senior leadership team. So I took some of the slides that I had from our dashboard, incorporated it into the QBRs, which opened up the dialogue of what do you need to know? What's important to you? And since then, we've added on a quarterly basis more drill down information to my leadership team. And one thing that they really wanted to see was who's flying business class. And so we now even provide a list of people on a quarterly basis as who's, has exceptions and who are the ones approving these exceptions, as well as the business class travel. So there's been this great chance for me to really get in front of the senior leaderships and showing some of the value of what the program can do. More importantly, I want to reflect the ROI, return on investment. The travel program is an investment, but it's an opportunity to make a difference. And I added an ROI slide, which I worked with my client success manager, took what we were receiving on the discounts from Corporate Traveler and incorporated that. The waivers and favors that my travel manager is able to achieve for our company, added that. I've added the unused tickets that are being repurposed. That was a very big aha for my company, for them to realize repurposing our funds instead of spending it on additional services was a real big win, as well as the contract savings that you have from your hotel and your car rentals. And so that actually shows the justification for your role, value for opportunities of investment in the future of new products and tools. We're actually talking to Corporate Traveler about adding Fairfly, which allows the rate reshopping. So there's some things you can really do by focusing on reporting and taking advantage of that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Being in customer success, we rely heavily on reporting. So I completely agree with all of your points there. A question for Annika. Do you have any tips to be more resourceful and productive in travel plans, including things like COVID restrictions?
Yeah, I mean, Chris mentioned it earlier, right? The airports are full, and I mean really full. So expect that flights will be full too. We've heard it earlier. There's a change in where planes are going to, so you're consolidating in a way. So they're really full. Everything's crowded, which is great. But you might want to book a bit more in advance to get the good rate. Same goes for hotels. If you want to keep rates down, book earlier. Airlines and hotels have shown tremendous flexibility these days and in the aftermath of COVID, and I hope it continues like that, because I really think it makes especially business travel a lot easier. What I've also seen as a result of that, unfortunately, is that luggage, if you're checking it, tends to get a little delayed at times, sometimes several days when you're overseas. So I would suggest, tell your travelers, have an emergency pack. If you're checking luggage, just make sure that you're covered for a day or two in your carry-on. It just takes that stress off as much as it is possible in that kind of situation. Expect lines to be longer, get to the airport early. People were always told to do that and they always showed up last minute. Now it's something that can bite you in the rear. Sign up for programs. There's so many great programs out there like TSA Pre, Global Entry, Nexus, but also Clear, which is free if you have the appropriate status with certain airlines. Hi, United. So I think they're just great things that you can utilize and you can, encourage them to do. Our company, for example, also expenses these kinds of programs for our frequent travelers. Make sure that whether the airline that you're flying requires a mask. If you're flying internationally, some still do. And if they don't, then ask yourself, do you want to wear one? Because it does keep stuff away. So just be prepared, have it in your pocket for whatever reason. And then really important, plan ahead in terms of safety, right? Like safety, security, your HR contact, know your contacts, know who they are. Print a list, take a screenshot of your list and have that handy in a case of an emergency that you know who to contact and who do you call. Even for smaller things like getting sick, right? What's your protocol? Who do you call? What's your contact? So you don't scramble. Familiarize yourself with the help tools that Corporate Traveler has, right? There are great ones out there. When you click on your little name, hey, you, and you click on the name and you can see COVID warnings, but also other news. It's really super helpful. Print out important data and numbers. It's just, our phones are our brains these days, but what if it doesn't work? What if it gets stolen, lost, whatever? It's good to have that. And then take a picture of your passport, your ID. Carry that with you as a printout. You see, I'm kind of about killing trees here, but still, it has a purpose. It's a good thing to have. And I've also become really close friends with AirTags, not to advertise any brands here, but if you have a little tracker that you can put into your luggage or into your wallet, it's just something that can help even at the airport to locate your luggage, or if your wallet does get lost, to find where it might have been last.
Great advice there, and I love the bit about taking making sure that you have your essentials with you on the plane. We've had a few situations, or I've heard of a few, where people pack their medication in their check-in luggage, and when they get to destination, they don't have it. So definitely one that you always want to take care of there. Thank you so much.
That's a great one too, right? With medication, I do have a few travelers that need to travel with medication. Each airline is a bit different when it comes to that, so make sure that you've got ice packs or whatever it is, a doctor's note sometimes, to just make sure that you can carry it with you and through TSA and into another country. So I think getting to know your travelers a little bit and asking the right question, I think will help them again to experience smoother travel.
Thank you so much. Next question, or questions are for Tim regarding air again here. So a couple here, and what challenges or changes in air travel should we expect in 2023? And secondary to that, we all know that some airlines don't play particularly well together. If you could just tell us quickly why that might be.
All right, sure. So first question about what challenges to expect. There's going to be some of the same, of course, because there's still staffing, pilot and airport staffing issues, the occasional unruly passenger that comes along. But aside from that, there's going to be some additional things over the next couple of years. One that the airlines have announced recently is that it's going to become more difficult to earn and maintain loyalty status. In 2020 through 2022, there was a lot of lowering of targets, and it was a lot easier to maintain status, which was really good when volumes were low. But then at the beginning of this year, once it started to come back, that caused a lot of overcrowding in the loyalty programs, as I'm sure Mary knows. There have been a lot of people with status. It's been hard to get upgrades. It's been hard to get into lounges. When you are in the lounges, it's been too crowded. Delta just announced yesterday that they're going to be cutting back on the on lounge perks for certain loyalty status members. Yeah, both all the major airlines have announced that it's going to be harder this next year to earn status. So it's not going to affect travel too much in 2023 in terms of status, but in terms of earning it then from 2024, fewer people are probably going to have it. A lot of people that were kind of on the border are not going to get the same status this year. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how that affects things. If it are people going to spend more, or is it going to thin out the ranks of the loyalty status, and is it going to make it easier for the real business travelers to get their perks? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works. One other change that we're seeing is a lot of the airlines pushing more to booking towards direct their direct channels and online and through NDC, which is kind of something that's going to be evolving a lot over the next year. And that's going to it's probably going to cause some challenges, especially when you have multiple airlines on the same itinerary. Which leads me to your next question. Why don't some airlines play nicely together? There's a wide variety. Every airline has its own reservation system. It has its own policies, and they don't always work great together. Now, there's different levels of alliances between airlines. Some are very close in pricing, some are very close in terms of being able to check luggage, and some aren't at all. And the problem isn't when, I find that the biggest problems aren't when they are not close. When airlines really don't get along and they're not going to combine anything, that's not a problem. You have to book separate reservations anyways. You expect it. You don't expect that you're going to check it through. But then what becomes a problem is when airlines have a ticketing agreement, and then you can book one airline in the outbound and another on the return, and you fly that outbound and there's no problem, and then you go to check in for that return, and all of a sudden it won't let you check in online. Maybe they won't let you check your baggage through between airlines. So it's a challenge, and I think it's going to continue to be maybe a bit more of a challenge going forward this next year as airlines push to book more directly. So it's something that we at Corporate Traveler, my client savings team deals with a lot, because we see a lot of bookings that come through on the online booking channels where it's like United one way, Delta the other way. And we have to always contact and say, hey, take a look at this, see if it might be better to split it into multiple reservations. And a lot of the times we can do that to prevent those problems. And one just suggestion I have for anybody booking on an online booking tool is, if you are having multiple airlines that are not really partners, think about doing multiple reservations, or just book one and then contact your travel manager so that they can then do it the best way for you, because they're very familiar with what the best way is to book things, and they can make a big difference in the travel process.
Thank you so much, Tim. So our last question here, and this is for Laura. So Laura, what are the biggest issues that you see with managing the travel program going into this next year, into 2023?
I'm going to sum up exactly what Tim and Jan said, as well as many of you. It is staffing. It is higher prices. It's availability. It is the travelers getting back out on the road who haven't traveled in a while, and they kind of forgot how to. That you have to, go back and re-educate and simplify and provide the best resources. One of the resources, like you said, your phone is your brain. I love that quote. I'm going to take that one back. Let's put as much content there, training content. If they're stuck in the dentist's office, encourage your people to, hey, look at that little online training that we have for you, and take advantage of that, so we can take advantage of these opportunities and help them be prepared. And that's a big part of what was discussed today too. Be prepared. Think on a plan B, maybe even a plan C if you need to, and understand, like you said, split ticketing doesn't always work well. The airlines don't always have that capability, but there's ways to make it easier for you. The other area I'm going to say is work closer with Marys of the world, where you kind of share what is your plan for 23, help them understand your needs going forward, and ask them the same thing. I've had my top hotels come and meet with us, and I asked my sales reps to bring their general managers, and we have an honest discussion. You can't find someone who can drive the people from the hotel to my office. What else can you do? And they're setting up Ubers that will drop them off if that's important to us. I'm like, that's fantastic. That reduces my car rentals. So I'm still getting a service, but telling them that's important to me, and they're telling us we can't staff it, was a kind of a soft win for both of us. And it also made me become more loyal and promote that hotel, because we were working together. So those are the opportunities I see. And I do see more challenges with the possible recession coming. So it's going to be a bit rocky. I see some heads nodding. Anyone else want to add to that?
Anyone else on the panel?
I think, Laura, we
had to bring that up. So,
go ahead.
I'm going to bring that up a bit with airfare, in terms of whether it's going to go up or down. A lot of that is going to depend on recession, whether or not how the economy goes in general, because that's the demand side. The supply is going to be what it is, but are people still going to be flying? And that's going to affect pricing a lot.
Yeah, and to add on to what you were just saying, Laura, communication is so key, right? Like talking to all of your vendors and travel partners is super important. But I do also fear that there is going to be a continuation of the lack of willingness to negotiate with a lot of the hotels that we had experienced. There has been a decrease in quality, just based on resources going away. Supply chain collapsed, staffing was out. So I think we're still going to be seeing that recovery phase in 23, and from a traveler side, that apprehension to plan ahead. It's like I keep saying it, plan ahead. They're giving you so much flexibility, so use that. But travelers just still don't have it exactly embraced yet, where they fear like something else the other shoe could drop, right? What's going to come next? Can I really make this trip? Do I have to change everything over again? So I think we really have to, encourage everybody to see 23 as a new start, as a new year, and turn the page and just hope for the best in the new year.
Thank you so much. Great end there to this session. I just want to thank all of the panelists. That's really good insights from many different angles about all the different parts of this weird and crazy industry that we're all a part of. So thank you so much for that. We're now going to move over to the wonderful Mary from United Airlines, who's going to give you an update on all the fantastic projects they're working on. And just want to thank you so much, Mary, for being here for Corporate Traveller.
Thanks, Ben. Really appreciate that. And oh my gosh, what great information has been shared. I know I learned a lot already, but just want to start out and say thank you so much to Flight Center and specifically our great partners with Corporate Traveller for giving us this opportunity today. We're really happy to be here. So we really do love working with the Corporate Traveller team. To start out, Jade did share some of your questions with me in advance. So I've tried my hardest to incorporate the answers in these slides as best I could. If I don't get to any of the questions, certainly willing to follow up, whether you work with your customer success manager or anyone on the CT team directly. And we will share the slides after the call as well. So with that, I think we can jump right in. So there are lots of reasons we believe to choose United. And ironically, Chris and Ben, and I think Annika and Lori talked about a lot of these as well. We share a lot of the same values that you, your companies, and your travelers do. So that's DEI, it's sustainability, which we talked a lot about, but a safe, clean, and reliable trip. So we know we're looking to have an uneventful travel experience. So we're going to continue delivering value, and part of that is with improvements to our fleet. We have over 500 new planes coming into our fleet in the next 5 years, and that works out to be about a new plane every 3 days. So that's kind of exciting. Everybody loves that new plane smell. Additionally, you all talked about staffing. We've hired over 15,000 employees this year. We'll hire another 15,000 next year. And our goal is to add 50,000 people overall. So we definitely recognize the staffing issues as well. We are a service provider and recognize the value and the importance of that. So we'll dig in on some more of these details. But first, we're going to show a 2-minute video that is part of our new advertising campaign called Good Leads the Way.
This is the story of an airline. It begins a century ago. Wait, let's find a better way in. This is the story of an airline, one that's a force for good. And it's got everything. Romance, suspense, setbacks, seatbacks. About a little girl who dreamed she could fly, and then did. Trust me, you won't want to put this one down. In fact, you can't, because you're in it. Yes, you! Along with thousands of other hero characters on a mission to do good in the air and beyond, making the world a happier, friendlier, safer, greener, more inclusive, more fascinating place. The end. No, wait, that's not right. This story doesn't have an ending. But that's kind of the point of the story. We're never finished, because this is the story of an airline when good leads the way.
So you may have seen that commercial on TV, or if you've been on one of our flights recently. I've seen it probably about 50 times, but I really love it. So just wanted to share that with you. I talked in the beginning about some of the technology as well. So in addition to DEI and sustainability focus, during the pandemic, we really had the opportunity, when there wasn't a lot of travel, to step back and invest a lot of time and resources in our technology. So our app is, we talked about the phone is your brain. I think that was the comment. It is so true with our United app. So I'm going to point to 2 of the specific things that are on our app. One is the Travel Ready Center. That is where, when there were COVID requirements and restrictions, and should hopefully not ever again, but should there ever be any sort of requirements again, that is all available right in the app for anyone who's traveling, for what you need for entry into that specific country. The other technology that we invested a lot in is our Connection Saver. So Connection Saver is a technology that allows us to determine based on actual flight time, what flights it might make sense to hold for connecting travelers and make sure we don't impact the on-time arrival for anybody already on that plane. So if a flight leaves a gate and closes a door, but leaves 10 people behind and it's going to arrive 10 minutes early, why not wait the 10 minutes for those folks to get them on that plane and have everybody arrive still on time? I would also add here, and we talked about load factors, or Chris did, I think. Our load factor for third quarter was 87%. But the best part of that is we also had our best arrival performance ever for third quarter. So to be able to do that with such a high load factor is something that we were really very proud of. So next slide, please. So one of the other pieces of technology that we developed is our agent on demand. So when your travelers are at the airport and they are maybe in an irregular operation situation, might be weather, thunderstorms, snowstorms, we're moving into that time of year. If they're not able to get a hold of a travel manager at the corporate traveler team, our airports are supplying and offering these QR codes. So if it's a bad weather day in Newark, they're having snowstorms, but Denver is seeing a blue sky day, or vice versa. What these QR codes do allow us to maximize our staffing. So back again to the staffing challenges and a way to overcome that. The customers will scan the QR. They can talk however they feel comfortable chatting with an agent, but allows us to make and take advantage of other airports not impacted with the delay or situation and support the airport that is being impacted. So again, it's maximizing the efficiency of our teams across our network. So next slide. So I just wanted to add this. And again, along that travel journey and making this travel journey the best that it can be, we were the first airline to eliminate change fees. So Annika, I think, talked about the leisure travel and making changes and not absorbing those. So this is helpful for both the corporate traveler and maybe some of those leisure travelers, that there are no change fees. So obviously certain tickets may have specific fees or restrictions applied, but we were excited to do this and know that we want to make it as easy for your travelers to travel on their United flights as possible. Next slide, please. So one of the other questions that was submitted, and I think Chris alluded to it a little bit, about why airlines don't play well with each other. So I thought it was an opportunity to kind of define a little bit some of the relationships that airlines do have. So there are joint ventures or JVs, there are Star Alliance relationships, there are code share relationships, and then there's kind of some of those other partnerships that are out there. So you can see on the chart here, and I know it's a very boring slide, but I'm hoping it's informative, that with a joint venture, and United has a joint venture with Lufthansa, Air Canada, ANA, and actually Air New Zealand, we share discounts, we share revenue, and the antitrust immunity allows us to speak to each other. So whether that's about pricing or actually scheduling, and that's part of the shared services as well, with checking bags and connecting. The Star Alliance and alliances are a little bit different. So Star Alliance, One World Alliance, etc. They don't have those shared discounts and revenue. So although we work together, it is a little bit different as far as what they can provide, as far as connecting services and within the agreements. So the Star Alliance, we have 26 carriers. So it does offer your customers or your travelers the opportunity to work across the network and be part of an alliance with shared services, but it doesn't allow us necessarily to share and work as closely together. Code shares are a little bit different, and that's where you may see the flight as a United flight, but it's actually on a Lufthansa aircraft or vice versa. And I think to be fully transparent, they may be some of the ones that cause a little bit of the challenges when there is a situation with those flights. So, but we work closely with the corporate traveler team the travel managers and the customer success managers to work through any of those challenges. Then there's the other partnerships that we've been developing. Talked about Virgin Australia not flying within the US anymore. We have a partnership with them. So on our flights to Australia, we now code share with them on flights in Australia, and they do the same with us on flights in the US. So it's ways for the airlines to enhance their network through partnerships with other carriers. And we also just recently announced a partnership with Emirates too. So the next slide will actually just really quickly share with you the 26 carriers that are part of the Star Alliance. And the Star Alliance is going to be 25 years old next year. So we're really excited about that. I'd imagine there'll probably be some celebrations and events. And just for a point of reference, the founding carriers for the Star Alliance were United, Lufthansa, Air Canada, and actually Thai Airways. And what the Star Alliance is, you can earn miles on any one of the carriers and use them on any one of the carriers that's a member. And also it allows you access to member clubs or lounges as well. So next slide, we talked some about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and just wanted to kind of focus on this because it seems like it's obviously a core value for United. It is for Flight Centre and Corporate Traveler, and it sounds like it is for many of you on the call as well. Our shared purpose is really connecting people and uniting the world. But one of our missions really is to make sure that our employee base represents the customers that we serve and the diversity that we see within all our customers and the communities that we operate in. So we really want our employee base to reflect all this diversity, but also because it's the right thing to do as well. And you can see we've won some accolades. We are very focused on this and continue to move forward with initiatives in this area. So the next slide is actually going to talk a little bit about two of our core values right now, one of those being the DEI initiatives, but also building up our pilots that we all know has been a challenge as of late. So we created this academy, the Aviate Academy, and we welcomed our first pilot class this year. And we are committed with this academy that is based in Goodyear, Arizona, to hiring 50% of the pilots at this academy will be either women or people of color. So we're very focused on ensuring our pilot base that we all need, but making sure that we're looking for people who've not traditionally been interested in these type of careers and really giving them an incentive and the inspiration to be part of our pilot base moving forward. So, and actually to point out, our first class actually exceeded that 50%. 80% of them were actually, 80% of the folks in our first training class were actually women or people of color. So really excited about the response that we had and the folks that we are going to be bringing into the front of our aircraft. So next slide is talk again. And I'm so excited because it seems like a lot of these slides really have been touch points throughout the call so far. So we talked some earlier about sustainability and some of the initiatives. Our CEO, Scott Kirby, is 100% committed to being 100% green and carbon neutral by 2050. We have kind of a three-pronged approach to sustainability. And, excuse me, that is optimizing our fleet and using sustainable aviation fuel. So I mentioned earlier about the 500 new aircraft we'll be bringing into our fleet. Clearly, these are all going to be much more fuel efficient, which will bring down and reduce our carbon footprint. In addition to that, we are networking and working with folks every day to look for new paths and suppliers of the sustainable aviation fuel. So that is something that we have an entire team that is focused on that. The second prong is carbon capture and sequestration. So that's about taking the carbon dioxide out of the air and either placing it underground, where I'm told it can stay for millions of years, or more green initiatives and finding potential uses for that carbon dioxide. So we have teams that are working on that. And then the third prong is really investing in other companies that are innovating and looking for these new solutions. So we have a group that United Ventures that is investing and supporting these companies that are creating these new ideas, these new innovations, and these new solutions to drive carbon neutrality and help us to meet our goals. Next slide. And I think this is one of my last ones. We talked about the really fun topic of bleisure. And that was one of the questions submitted. I was excited to offer that. I was on a business trip to London about a month ago, and I took advantage of bleisure, maybe for the first time ever, and did a little side trip to Copenhagen to visit my niece who was there doing her semester abroad studying. So it is a reality. BTN is talking about it right now as well, in that they're saying that it's because with the reduced office work schedule, where people only need to be in the office maybe 3 days a week, they can work remotely. So the weekends, as BTN put it, every weekend can be a holiday weekend. So if you can work from elsewhere, it gives you the opportunity to travel and work from there and then enjoy the benefits of whatever that destination might be. I thought I'd add this fun slide with some of our new transatlantic network and routes that Chris alluded to. And he is right in that we have really enhanced our transatlantic network because of the fact that we really are not able to use a lot of our aircraft right now to fly to Asia as much as we would love to. So we're taking advantage of the opportunities and adding some new routes to Malaga, Spain, Stockholm, Sweden, Dubai, in order to support our new partnership with Emirates. So you can see some of the great opportunities and destinations. So if some of your travelers are looking for bleisure opportunities this summer, we've got a lot of opportunities for them. So next slide, and I think that was it. So again, if there were any questions that you had that I didn't get to, I'm happy to answer them, through your customer success manager or whatever way you want to provide those to us. We'll be happy to respond. And again, just thank you so much to Flight Center, Corporate Traveler, for giving us this opportunity today. We really appreciate their partnership, and working with them is just absolutely delightful. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was very useful. And it's always great to hear what United are doing to lead the way in some of the key, key issues like sustainability and D&I. I love the Good Leads the Way campaign. It's very emotive, which as a marketer, I very much appreciate. And you were also getting a lot of love in the chat, which maybe you'll see now, especially for the mobile app. And I agree, it's very useful and very easy to use. So thank you again, and we really appreciate your partnership and your support.
I might have to share with our marketing team, the phone is your brain. Maybe they can incorporate that into the app as well.
Definitely rings true. Well, thank you so much again to Mary. That concludes our speaking portion of the webinar. We're now going to do our prize draw. So as a reminder, just while our team bring up our little spin the wheel, just as a reminder, we are giving away a pair of United return economy flights to one lucky winner. So without further ado, I'll ask our events team to spin that wheel so we can see who our lucky winner is. Oh, here we go. It's thinking about it. Very simple. Helen Elmore. Congratulations, Helen. Hopefully you're still on and excited. Yes, I can see you're still on. So congratulations, Helen. We'll reach out to you after the webinar so that you can claim your prize with United. Maybe you've got some inspiration from those new routes that Mary shared. So once again, thank you so much to everyone for taking the time out of your day to join us today. We hope this was useful. We hope you learned something. Just a reminder again, if you want to ask us any further questions or you want further details on any of the topics covered today, please don't hesitate to reach out to a member of the Corporate Traveler team. If you're interested in partaking as a panelist for any of our future events, also please let us know. We always love to hear from our customers on these events. It's really helpful for us and it's really helpful for all the other attendees. So once again, thank you everyone for joining and have a good rest of your day.